We are heading into the new year, and I don't really know how this holiday season has treated you, but I am so excited for you to hear a fresh and a holistic approach to your health. I am speaking with Coach Gretchen Meyers, whom I admire and respect so much. I think you will understand why during our conversation. Stick around. Hey there, I'm Amy.Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, your movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you are called to do. I don't know if you are on social media or not, but I am. I spend most of my time on Instagram or Facebook. And I really don't even know when I found Coach Gretchen Meyers, a personal trainer based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, but I immediately just fell in love with not only what she was teaching and educating people, but her mindset about the fitness industry, about health. I feel like we are aligned in so many ways, but she does a much better job at serving her audience through Instagram. She's always putting really creative movements and explanations and form checks behind it because I know that is really important to her. Now, this is an episode that I am going to ask for a little bit of grace in. Here's why. I knew that I wanted to talk with Coach Gretchen. And I invited her on and I said, let's do 2 episodes. One, I want to talk about kettlebells because she does a lot of kettlebell education. And quite honestly, that's not something that I really use a lot of, do a lot of, and I really value her knowledge. And then I said, let's talk about the new year. So she came on and we did an interview about kettlebells. Now, if you're thinking, but I didn't hear an interview about kettlebells, that's because I haven't played it yet. So there are times in our conversation where we reference that. I spent a lot of time at the end of 2020 focusing on kind of women's health in terms of hormones and gynecological cancer and pelvic floor. And I really wanted to hold on to that kettlebell until the beginning of the year. So you will hear us talk about that conversation. I promise it is coming. And I just thought, I hope that we all know each other well enough that you can kind of look past some of those references and just listen to what we have to say because she has some really great information. We talk some about just the mixed emotions for trainers at the beginning of a year. We talk about how our body image is tied to racist roots, our greatest hope for our clients and for our communities as they head into the new year. We talk about wisdom as we age. I mean, there's just so much that it's just kind of like a conversation, honestly, of 2 trainers sitting down talking shop, which I think you'll enjoy listening to. Gretchen is a certified personal trainer, a kettlebell instructor, and just loves moving in all the ways. She's been training clients and teaching group classes for over 15 years. 2 years ago, she decided to go into business for herself by teaching kettlebell classes out of her garage and training clients in her home. Since then, her business has moved completely online, which we talk a little bit about from a COVID perspective. And there, online, she continues to teach classes, she trains clients, and offers other fitness programs for those who are looking to get strong, mobile, and durable. Before I bring Gretchen on, I want to invite you to break some rules with me. That's right. I am a rule follower to my core, and I have decided I am breaking some of the health rules. If you would like to break these with me, go to gracedhealth.com/bad rules, just BADRULES, all one word. I've got it in the show notes. Get your free copy and break these rules with me because there's a lot of really dumb fitness and health rules out there. Okay, let's bring Gretchen on. Gretchen, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me again.
Yes, yes. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation we had about kettlebells. And, that's definitely one area that I know I need to learn a little bit more about. Probably I need to incorporate once my shoulder gets better, incorporate it a little bit more. And so, listeners, if you have not heard that, make sure you go back and listen to Gretchen. She tells us all about kettlebells and really, really great stuff. So, I am glad you're here again. Tell me, I just wanted this to be a little bit of a kind of an open conversation. Um, it's really fun for me when I find other trainers who are like-minded. I have a trainer, her name is Candace Harris, and she actually was she kind of coached me nutritionally about a year ago. And she and I are very like-minded, and it's just really fun to kind of dig into some of that. So I just thought maybe we could sit down, and I think you've got your water and I've got my tea, and we can just have a little pretend like we're sitting at a coffee house drinking coffee that neither one of us, not that I don't drink coffee, but
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yes.
yes. Okay. So real quick, for those of people who have not met you yet, and have not listened to the kettlebell, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do, and your history in the fitness industry?
Okay. I am a personal trainer. I have been for over 15 years, and I primarily focus now on I just work on getting people feeling strong and mobile and durable, meaning that they prevent injury, that they gain strength, and they can move in all the ways. I do that through a focus on a lot of kettlebell work. I teach some classes online, and I have an online kettlebell program as well as one-on-one coaching.
Okay. All right. So you're kind of doing everything virtual right now.
Yeah. And I'm actually, before COVID hit, I was working to have a completely virtual business. So this was actually a bump for me. I'm pretty happy about it, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And how's that been during COVID? I mean, did you find that people were pretty willing to migrate to that online environment?
I don't know if they were willing, but they did. I think there was a lot of reservations, and it was kind of like that first week. I was like, let's just come. I don't really know how live classes are on Zoom are going to go, but we're going to give it a shot. And so they all came, and honestly, they all stayed. And I keep getting more people as time goes by. So I don't know what's going to happen when things start really opening back up. But I find that most people are just really just thankful, number one, to be able to work out. Number two, to not have to get in their car and drive. They can roll out of bed and show up to class. Like we're starting to recognize like all the benefits of having online. And instead of calling it like kind of like second best, we're actually all really enjoying being online together. We have a nice community there. So
yeah. Well, that's funny you say that, because that was my follow-up question. Like what has been the experience of the community feel for that? Because I read it, I wish I could remember where their source was, when this was years ago, but it was something like 86% of people who show up at group fitness classes, not necessarily at the gym, but at group fitness, are there for the social environment, which I've witnessed, and I know you have too. I mean, you get the people who are coming and talking beforehand, and then they're hanging out in the parking lot 30 minutes after. So how does that work? Because I kept all of I took a break because all of my classes are outside, but then starting in May, the classes that I had, we resumed. We just put the mats 9 feet apart and all of that kind of good stuff. So, how does that work from a community aspect?
That's a great question. I didn't really know how it was going to work, but it has actually kind of brought us all closer. My classes have always been, as you said, more about just us showing up. We always have great conversations and jokes. And I think as time has gone on, my clients have said, I've heard several times, like, your classes are what's getting me through this pandemic. So I think just being able to, we just hop on, we're talking about COVID, we're talking about all the things, and then we get to move together as well. So it's actually, I think it's been fantastic for, the place that we're in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, how wonderful it is that we actually even have this as an option. I mean,
so true.
100 years ago, with the Spanish flu, this was not, I mean, I just can't imagine how isolating that would be. And, so many people rely on fitness for
Yes.
kind of our mental health
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, kind of combining those two has been so important.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
important.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just mind blowing to think because I feel like we've kind of been in this weird pause session since mid March,
Yeah.
but we've got like the holidays and the new year right around the corner,
Yeah.
which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, crazy, crazy. And I know we're recording this basically at the end of October. Um, and I'm not sure when we're going to go make this go live, but I'm wondering what are your thoughts as a trainer and with the mentality and so I guess I should probably have you talk about your mentality of training first, but what are your thoughts with the new year? Like the influx of all things fitness and health of January 1.
Yeah, it's a thing for sure. So I have since I in the very beginning of my career when I was young, and I'll just say this now, it's a much bigger story, but I started my career newly out of a decade long of eating disorders. So my mindset was not in the right place when I started my career. Let's just put it that way. So
Yeah.
how I've worked has changed dramatically over, the 15 years that I've been a trainer. Right now, forever and always, I will put people's health first. And health to me looks like having a good relationship, comfortable relationship with both food and exercise. And that to me means not following restrictions and throwing out the word diet as opposed as something that you adhere to with rules, and learning to move again to feel good and to move well in your body. So that's kind of where I come from. So when the holidays roll around, it's a whole thing because there's so much regarding, with the holidays, whatever it is, whatever you celebrate, there's usually a type of cuisine, a type of food that goes along with that, a type of celebration. And it typically comes with a lot of guilt around this time of year, or it's hard for people to enjoy themselves, to enjoy those times together with their family, enjoying food and having a good time without thinking about what their body looks like and what their weight is and what they're going to need to do after the holiday seasons are over.
Yeah.
People are thinking about January 1st. So they're either going all in saying like, screw it. I'm going to eat everything. Like, let's just wait. We'll wait till January 1st and I'll just
I'll
start
deal with
over
it
again.
then. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
just the worst. And it makes me so sad because it doesn't have to be that way. Having a good relationship with food and exercise looks like enjoying the foods with your family and not trying to, kill yourself with exercise come January 1st. So, and I think you feel that way too, don't you?
Yes, I do. But it definitely has taken me a while to get there. And as you were talking, I kind of wrote down, I said, how did you get to that mindset? But if you were to ask me that question, I don't know that I could really answer it. I mean, I've got my own story of, for me, it was more kind of going in the back door from a body image, um, perspective. I spent way too many years, I call it, punishing my body for a decision my brain made.
Yeah.
And I spent way too many years of counting calories and trying to get for the purpose of like, how do I need to work it off and feeling shame for, the extra Thomas the Train cupcakes that I would eat, or that kind of stuff. And then I realized, and I think some of it too, like you said, is age. I mean, you're 43. I turned 46 in a couple months or a couple weeks. Um, I think some of it is age and realizing, seeing my body age and get older and then realize how important it is to take care of it so I can do what I love to do.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a process. I mean, what do you have anything that you're like, oh, well, this is what turned the corner for me, or was it more something gradual?
It was there were many things. One of the things that really kind of flipped a switch for me was when I was a lot younger, 22 maybe. I got in a car accident and I snapped my femur, which is your thigh bone,
Mm.
and I had to have a rod and some screws put in, which I still have to this day. But I went through a lot of therapy and I had to, kind of relearn how to walk, and it took a lot of time, and it was
Wow.
I think sometimes when you lose something, that's when you really appreciate it, right? It was like I could no longer, go for, I couldn't run. I was like barely walking. And I just started to think, it started the shift in my brain to think differently. I wasn't there yet, but it started being like, oh yeah, I really need to appreciate that I can do this. I can really move how I want to, or I used to be able to. I'll get back there again. But I'm taking for granted this body that I have. So that was kind of where it started. And then I had jobs where I was being told how things should be, and it just didn't feel right. It just, things that I were telling my clients and, in the early career about, I had a trainer that was telling a client not to eat watermelon because it had too much sugar, and that didn't fit right with me. I know, I can't even. And then like those things were like, oh,
I literally have written about that.
have
I
you?
have literally written about that. Yeah. So I have a 14-day devotional, and one of my friends actually said one time, um, some about anyone who doesn't believe in God has never had watermelon,
Yeah.
and how wonderful it is. And then I was like, but people won't eat it because it has a high sugar content, which, I mean, like,
Yeah.
what? Maybe don't eat it all day, every day, but what?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was hearing those things, right? And I was just like, this isn't right. We're not, what are we selling here? What do we really want for our clients? And I think just like I feel like I just started recognizing all the things that weren't right about our business, right? All the messages that were being told that didn't feel right for me, and they weren't making my clients feel good. And it's just kind of over time, I decided that things needed to be different, and I was going to make them different.
Yeah. I love that. We need more of that. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with the fitness, and I'm going to put it in quotes, the
Sure.
fitness industry, because at the end of the day, it is a business, and they're selling something. And I think you wrote about this one time on Instagram, but they're kind of selling something that I don't know is really even attainable, like happiness through having a perfect body. And I don't know, it's a complicated relationship for me.
It is.
What are your thoughts?
100%. I read something recently about before and after photos, and how
Mhm.
it was kind of the history of how they came about. And I don't know if that's important to discuss right now, but just that, that we're often showed two side by side pictures, and someone who has more weight on them, what's their facial expression? They're always frowning. They're always like
Yeah.
sad face, or their hair's all messed up. And then the thinner body has a smile on her face, and, she's in better lighting or whatnot. But the message is that has been told to us is that first body was not okay, and it made that person happy. And that second body, regardless of how long that person kept that body, because you know what, it might not have been that long.
Right.
Weight loss, as we know in the industry, it's a 92+% failure rate. So diets don't work. We generally know that. So it's the messages that we've been told have just been so skewed for so long that we actually believe, yeah, I think I'm going to be happier if I look this way as opposed to that way. Yeah.
Right. And the before picture, gosh, if I look that way, then I must not be able to be happy, or I shouldn't be happy.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of emotions that are intertwined within those before and afters. And I think that, yeah, they don't tell the whole story. They don't tell how long the story has been. They don't tell the after story. It's just one point in time. And, but we get caught up. And I mean, I admit sometimes I see that and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what
Yeah.
did she have? I want some.
Mhm. What you do? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between food and exercise. I know we did a little bit before, but um, there's a lot of switches in our mindsets sometimes with food and exercise, and I have to work off this, or if I'm going to eat this, and um, one you've talked about recognizing. I love this that you said recognize who benefits from you feeling shitty about your body, and then what do you really want from a fitness program. Can you talk a little bit about that and dig into that a little bit more, because I think that you have some really great thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think from the get, if we kind of, I've talked a little bit about this before, and I am by no means the authority in this, but I read enough to be able to speak on it, is that the history of weight and how we feel about our bodies and how weight became intertwined with health. Went back to the early 1800s. So if we're looking at weight from a health perspective, we need to know the history of it, because weight was deemed as, I'm going to put this in quotes, as the savage body type. Okay. Because early European men in the early 1800s decided that they wanted to create a hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, they decided to put themselves at the top. So they were thin, they were white, and what they saw as people of color, they called them heavier, and they said that's the look that we don't want. So they put it as uncivilized and savage, and so that was the mindset that we came from, and that has still hold true today. Actual weight being linked to your health didn't come, and for a long time after that, the whole idea that weight was bad, that having a heavier body was bad for you, just came out of this hierarchical system that white men created. So our opinions about our body are rooted in racism. So knowing that that was where it came from is a big switch, right, in your brain. If you know that, then it's really hard to grasp what we're doing today, at least in my mind anyway, what we're doing to our bodies today. We're like supporting racism in essence, when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I've kind of lost the point of the question. What was the point of the question?
Well, I wanted to dig into that too. So I almost want to just kind of give you the floor and keep going in this, because I think you have some really, you have done more work than I have in black bodies, white bodies, how health is, or how body size, I guess, is intertwined with racism, and I really admire your work in that, and that's something that I've been slowly working on.
Yeah, I know you are. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I think that is, it's really interesting stuff. I think the original question was more centered around like who is benefiting from you
Right.
feeling bad about your body, and what you're really wanting from a fitness program. But bring in the different dynamics particularly with people of color too, because I think that's I love learning about that stuff.
Yeah, so I do, so I think that is your basic foundation that you should know. You should know that your weight and your feelings about your body are directly created by white men who were trying to create a hierarchical system in order to put some people down and make other people higher. Those people that we're putting down are Black people. The people that they put at the top are white people. We're still there today. We're still in that framework right now in society today. So knowing that should be like the little piece in your brain that clicks in that say, okay, well, maybe this isn't right that I feel about my body. And then if you can kind of recognize that, you can recognize, well, who else benefits from is it white patriarchal society benefits from me worrying about my body? Companies benefit from me worrying about my body, right? Over and over again, the people who sell the creams, the people who sell the waist trainers, the people who sell the diet tea, they're making a boatload of money off of you not feeling good about your body, right? Mm-hmm. And again, let's go back to it. Why do you not feel good about your body? Because some white men decided a couple hundred years ago that you shouldn't feel good about your body if you have weight on. So like it all goes back to that. And at least in my mind anyway, is that being able to recognize, the steps along the way that made you feel this way about your body is rooted in some crazy ass white man racist shit. Yeah, right? I'm sorry, can I not swear? I think you swore.
Yes, you can.
Beep it out if you need to.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's interesting, and I'm going to have a hard time connecting all of these dots, but it's interesting to hear how this is from 200 years ago when it was purely a visual thing, when now in 2020 we know that we can look at health in so many different ways. And, what's your blood metrics? What's your functional metrics? What's your sleep metrics? How's your blood pressure? How's your cardiovascular health and all that kind of stuff, which has nothing to do oftentimes with how you look. Now, sometimes one can be heavier and need to take better care of their body, but that can also be true with someone who is very thin. Yeah. And who would fit into that mold of what you're talking about. So it's interesting that they made that was decided so long ago, just purely on something visual of what was, these are quotes,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
better than, and we now know so much and we're trying to undo. I mean, I think a lot of the health industry is trying to, and not all, but people like you and I were like, we're trying to undo it. It's not about your size.
Right.
And it's so hard to get out of that. And, I confess, I sometimes still have a difficult time getting my brain out of that mess.
For sure, 100%. And I think the messages that we're being told make it really hard. I think what helps me always remember is that correlation does not equal causation. So, when you think about people in heavier weight who are of heavier weight having a bad health, you need to think that the correlation between those two things are not correct. Okay, so the reason why people who are in heavy weight are sometimes diagnosed with other problems as high blood pressure or whatever is because they're showing up at the doctor's office and they're being told to look at weight, or they're being told to get on the scale, and they're being discussed about their weight before they're even being looked at any other things, checking out any other test to find out any other things. So as a result, people of heavy weight don't feel comfortable going to the doctors. They don't have blood pressure cuffs that fit their arms. Their seating is often not appropriate for them. They go in there and they're not being heard. They're not being listened to. So they're leaving that doctor's office and they're not getting the tests that they need. They're not really getting the care that they need because they're already being stigmatized for being in a different size body that doesn't look like the thin ideal.
Yeah.
So I always think about that, just because someone is heavier doesn't mean that they have something, that it was the cause of their high blood pressure. It's quite frankly could very well be weight stigma that's making them unhealthy, right? Because they're not being treated as a person who is in a thinner body.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely, I think there is definitely a thin privilege out there. And, it's just like people who are born into lower income. Yeah. It's just harder to get out. It is just a higher uphill battle to get out of that. And, so in this conversation, it's just a higher uphill battle to take control of your health. You've got a lot of things that are just not impossible, but just harder to do.
For sure. 100%.
Talk to me a little bit about what you feel is the correlation between kind of the mind body. And you talked a little bit about gratitude and, where do you coach your clients in terms of where their mental thoughts lie in relation to their fitness and their health?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So we talk a lot about gratitude for sure. I talk a lot about how you get to move your body, how that's a privilege in and of itself, right? We get to exercise. We don't have to exercise. We get to do it because we have the body that moves. And so with that mindset, I feel like it's a lot easier to follow along on a fitness program with that in knowledge. Like, it's like, I get to do this. I don't have to. It's a privilege that I get to do this. It's a privilege that I get to move it. It's a privilege that I can move it. And so that's kind of the basis of pretty much everything that I do. It's like, we get to get up today and breathe air and move our body, and we can do it again tomorrow, and we can rest when we need to, and we can listen to our body. So I think, I also, when I'm working with anybody, we're often talking about, being engaged in what you're doing. And I think that matters a lot too, as far as appreciating your body and what it can do. If you're, showing up to class and you're just kind of like jumping around and you just want to sweat a lot, you're not actually being able to recognize how lucky you are that you can do this, that your body is moving in this way. So I think gratitude, it's all stems from gratitude, just being, mindful of you have a body that you can move, and you got to be grateful for it.
Yeah. And you get to do it rather than you have to it's not, I have to go work out. I get to go work out. Yeah. And that's a mind shift as well, because I think for so many of us, we grew up thinking, well, I have to work like this book that I'm working on, the title right now is I Have to Work Off Dessert and Other Rules to Break. And so it's all of these things that we have to move because of something else, because we are feeling shame or guilt from a decision that we made, or, because we're not happy with our body, or because, and so there's a totally different mentality. And I'm with you. The gratitude about it is huge, is
Yeah.
huge. And just, one thing and I'm not great about doing this every time, but whenever I'm doing like a real functional movement, I love getting into my head and then through my body and just noticing all of the different muscles that are working along. It's like, how amazing is this creation of our bodies, of like that everything can work together. And I swear when I do that, like I can feel those results. Like I might be sore in somewhere, a different area, because you kind of activated that whole, your muscles and your body in a totally different way.
Oh, there are studies out there that talk about muscle activation. And when you actually focus on the muscles that you're using, you get so much more out of it, that actually the muscles actually activate some percentage more than if you're not thinking about the muscle that you're using. I wish I had the stats on it, but I know that's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you like me? Like I'll read stuff because I'm sure you are too, reading stuff all the time. And I'm like, I'll pull out the takeaway and then I don't remember where it came from and I don't remember who said it.
Unless I write it down, which doesn't happen that often. It's like if I'm gonna use it for like a newsletter or for a post, I'll write it down. But beyond that, it's like, oh yeah, I got that.
Yeah, just totally pour it out or pull it out. Okay, so let's circle back again to the kind of the top of the conversation, which is the new year. What do you wish what would be your greatest hope, I guess, for someone starting or going into the holiday season and then coming out of it and starting the new year from a health and fitness perspective?
Oh, that's a great question. I would hope that they enjoy all the foods of this holiday season without guilt. That's my number one. I wish everybody could do that. I wish everybody could eat the mashed potatoes and eat the pie or whatever it is, whatever foods that they eat for whatever holidays they celebrate, and enjoy it and not think twice about it. And then I hope that during that time they move their body when they feel good, and if they are busy and they can't get to a workout, I hope that they skip it and not feel super guilt about it, and just know that you can work out the next day. I hate that the calendar kind of puts this pressure on people, right? That you have to actually, start over come January 1st. You can start over tomorrow. You can start over in 5 minutes. You can start over whenever you want. You can move whenever you want. You can make exercise a regular part of your life at any time of the year. It doesn't have to start on January 1st. I think that when we put so much pressure on a date, we create these expectations that are completely unrealistic for what we can accomplish in a short period of time. Because as you and I both know, change and habits and strength, they don't come very quickly. It takes repetition. It takes a lot of time. It takes effort. It takes sustainable, coming back now and again, or coming back over and over again. And I wish that people would take the pressure off themselves to enjoy the holidays as they want, and to know that they can start a regular fitness routine at any point in their life that they want to, and that to make it fit their lives is what makes it sustainable. So going super hard for, the first month of January and then calling it quits is not going to keep you feeling good throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And figuring out what's realistic to make it sustainable.
Absolutely. I think that's the missing link, right? I think that people create unexpected realizations, or create unrealistic expectations. Thank you. That took me a minute. I didn't know about how long they have to work out, about how hard their workouts need to be. And they don't, there is a way to fit a workout into your workout, into your life, that can be sustainable. It probably doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like, but it can be figured out and you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And two, as we're getting older, those 1 hour workouts really aren't what's best for us.
No,
And that's another rule in my book that you have to get your hour of workout in.
Yeah.
Just because the gyms put those in a 1 hour time block doesn't mean that that's what's best for us, especially now.
So true. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think about. Let's talk about mobility.
Okay.
So I'm a little late to the train with mobility. I think I started getting into that probably a year ago or so. And all of a sudden I was like, holy moly, I should have been doing this a long time. How long have you been doing it? When did you start really realizing that this can be a secret sauce to your movement?
Um, did I tell that story about my broken leg in this podcast about my snapping my femur? I don't know if I did, but was it?
Yes. Well, you mentioned in the kettlebell one that you snapped, or well, maybe it was earlier in this conversation. I don't remember.
I don't know, but I did. In my early 20s, I snapped my femur, and then I was in therapy for a while, and getting back out of walking, getting back to walking and then to running, I had a therapist that taught me some moves, and I was like, what have I been missing here? What is happening? Getting into different ranges of motion and being able to move my leg again was like so important to me. And I had such great success with the physical therapist that I was seeing at the time that I realized I could use this in other areas of my body. You know, my shoulder doesn't feel super right. Maybe if I start putting some focus on moving that in a couple different ways, maybe that will feel better. And that was huge for me too. And then having kids, like it's just every bit of my life has like shown me exactly what I need for my fitness routine or for my fitness to feel good in my body. So I learned kettlebells to strengthen my back, and I learned mobility to get me moving better, to be able to get down on the floor with my kids and get up and not have pain. So I think it was definitely a gradual process, but I would say especially since my kids, and definitely since after when I broke my leg all those years ago, I realized that which mobility is the combination of both strength and flexibility, and you need both in order for you to live your life safely and not get injured. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I don't, my husband, well, I was in a doctor's appointment with him one time and he was talking about the importance of flexibility and mobility, which I know are a little different, but he said, look, all the strength training in the world is not going to help you if you drop your keys and you can't pick them up off the ground. And just those, like I know that you were talking on your Instagram feed recently about hinging at the hips and how it's not necessarily flexibility, it's mobility. And just that ability to be able to do that. I mean, like, I think you're sitting there cross-legged again.
I am. Amy, I am.
And
Like a
I mean,
cross leg.
yeah, I know, but it's, but those are the kinds of things. I mean, I had a really tight piriformis for a long time and I hadn't really been doing mobility and I couldn't sit down for more than like 40 seconds cross-legged without having to pop my leg out. And that's been I mean, it sounds dumb, but I'm like, I can sit, crisscross applesauce like a kindergartner again for a long period of time. It's great.
And all the squats, you could do all the squats in the world, but it's not going to help you, right? It wasn't going to
Yeah.
help you get out of that pain 100%. And I think that's the missing link that, as I've discussed this with you earlier, is just, the older you get, the more wise you become to what you really need out of your fitness routine. And that is just to be able to move in all the ways to keep yourself out of pain. And so I think that is often a missing link. People will go to, squat heavier and heavier and press heavier and heavier and not put any focus on how can you move that weight through a different range of motion. And that's the stuff that keeps you from not getting hurt.
Well, and I think too, that goes back to the why are you doing what you're doing?
Right.
Are you doing it so you can lift a lot? And maybe so, if that's your goal, fine. But my goal is so I can move well and feel well and run up the stairs at a moment's notice or get out of the car without not hobbling and remembering the why behind what you're doing, I think will really help frame and shape the movement that you do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes 100% sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was walking with a girlfriend a couple weeks ago and she's kind of like a season beyond me. Like her youngest is in finishing up college. And I said, well, and she's always been active and fit. And I said, well, what would you do differently? Like if you could go back? And she said, absolutely, I would do more mobility. She goes, I think I'm really paying for it now. Cause she's hurting and having some issues. And she said, I wish I would have done that. So that's something, it's one of those things that I don't know about you. I think maybe you've been doing it longer than I have, and you're probably further along in your mindset maturity. But, for a lot of people, like we know we feel good when we're done with it. But there's a lot of people who don't want to do like a mobility workout because they didn't sweat enough and they didn't breathe hard enough.
Right. That is so true. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, the point of your fitness program and, weight being so weight focused and body shape focused is that I honestly, and myself included, have trained several clients who spent years just doing HIIT workouts, right? Getting as sweaty as they possibly can, doing the hardest version of whatever it is. Those people are now my clients, and we're working out shoulder issues and we're working out back issues, because their whole focus back then was, how hard can my workout be to change the shape of my body, right? And
Yeah.
and now we're realizing, that's those kinds of workouts, those ones geared toward weight loss, are often the ones that are going to hurt you the most, right? So yeah.
Well, and especially when they're not done holistically,
100%.
right? Like,
Yes.
do it, but
Right.
you only need, I mean, my HIIT workouts are 20 minutes max.
Yes. Right. Right. Going to
Yeah. And
that hour-long gym block. Yeah. Give me a break.
mhm,
I taught
mhm.
hour-long gym classes, not that long HIIT classes, not that long ago. And it was after like a few months, I was like, what am I doing? This is awful. So I started to kind of break it down. So the last half of class was more mobility stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can't do it for an hour and you can't do it every day.
Yeah.
Like 3 times a week
Yeah.
is max. Good. Start with one. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Len Kravitz, I assume that are you familiar with him? Dr.
Yeah.
Len Kravitz?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's given a lot of really great information, and his book is it's good for people interested in HIIT. But the thing too, I don't know if you listen to Pete McCall, All About Fitness podcast.
I don't think I do. I don't think I know that one. Mm-mm.
Okay. He's fantastic. He's coming on the show soon. I don't know where he's coming in relation to this, but he pointed out one time, because he'll go and he'll get the leading research experts. And he said, it seems like the more someone knows about something, so I'm kind of going back to like Dr. Kravitz,
Yeah.
the more someone knows about something, the less honed in they are on it. Like, don't do it all the time. Like, and Dr. Kravitz is like, just start with one a week, not like go in all in an
Right.
hour every day.
Right.
And so,
yeah, I should say that I love HIIT workouts. I do them myself, but I do them once a week. I think that they've been sold, like P90X and some of those other programs have been sold to a group of people who weren't ready for those type of exercises. And those are now my clients trying to get out of pain. Yeah. So
the fitness industry is keeping you in business.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. For sure. I think HIIT workouts are great. I do love them, but I think they're sold in a way that's not sustainable for most people in their body.
Totally. I totally agree. What's the one thing burning on your heart as a trainer for people to know?
Really, I feel like it's just so much about the relationship between food and exercise and what health really means. I feel like I don't talk about it enough. I really love social media for this, and having, some outlet and some newsletters. I feel like these are conversations that are kind of deeper that I can't, I'm focusing on people getting to move well, and I can't really go on that aspect all that much in a one-on-one or in a group class. But just, I want people to feel good about eating the foods that they like, and that you can actually change your diet to a more nutrient dense diet, as opposed to cutting out a whole bunch of stuff, right? So you can eat all the foods you like, and you can eat better too, right? Just to know that you don't need to that you don't ever have to burn off anything that you eat, and that the whole correlation between working out to make up for something you ate just really kills me when I hear people still talk about it to this day. It's a hard one for me to grasp. And it's like, I want to talk more about it, but it's like, you only have so much time,
Right.
in your day, and you don't want to, and I just want people to feel good about their bodies and focus more on how well they can move as opposed to how well they look. So that's kind of,
Yeah, I love that.
I always have that feeling about them,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Hey, Gretchen, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun for me. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
Me too, Amy. I'll talk about this all day long with you. It was great talking to you too. I really appreciate being back again.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I asked you this on the kettlebell, but I think that you can handle another question. And that is, I love tattoos. I think a lot of people will have great stories surrounding them. And have followed you enough to know that you do have some. So why you shared one on kettlebell. If people haven't heard that, they can go back and listen to it, because I love that one. But do you have another one that you would love to, or that you would be willing to share a story behind?
I do. My biggest tattoo that I have, I decided that I was going to get for me for my 40th birthday. I went back and forth about what I wanted to get or, what spoke to me. And I decided that my favorite flowers are peonies. I love that they come up, that I get to like watch them slowly come up. It's such a finite time in history, right? It's like they slowly come up and they only bloom for a short amount of time. They're gorgeous. And then they go back and then you get to wait for them again for another year. And I love the story of peonies. So my biggest tattoo is a whole bunch of peonies on my shoulder that I got from an artist that lives in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he did fantastic at it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't have any, but I do like learning the stories behind them. It's kind of a good opening sometimes. I'll see people and I'm like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I've had some really great conversations with it. Okay. All right. So if people would like to get a hold of you, tell everybody where they can connect with you.
Okay. They can find me on Instagram at Coach Gretchen Meyers. And then will you put them in the show notes? I don't need to.
I will. Yeah, I'll put all of this in the show notes, but go ahead and say it because sometimes people will just go there themselves.
That's true. It's Coach Gretchen Meyers. That's GretChen and Meyers. That's on Instagram. My website is www.coachgretchenmeyers.com. And that's pretty much it. I have some links on my website to, my newsletter you can get on. If you want some more information from me, you can click on there.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming on again. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great one.
That was so much fun for me. And I hope you gained a lot of just little nuggets of wisdom to apply to your own health, whatever that looks like as you enter the new year. Kind of like what we talked about, there's no one right way to do it. And so figure out how health and how your January works best and how it should look best for you. I really encourage you to go, if nothing else, go follow Coach Gretchen Meyers over on Instagram. The link will be in the page. And then she gives really great newsletters. And so go sign up for her newsletters. They are always quality, top-notch content. So I highly recommend that. Don't forget to get your download, How to Enjoy Shame-Free Health by Breaking 8 Health Rules at gracedhealth.com/bad rules. Also, is there someone you know whom today's conversation might serve? Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's another trainer, maybe it's just, hey, let's just put this out there on social media and start the conversation. So if so, share this with them on social media. That helps the show so much. If you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do that. And if you want to give me a little Christmas present, I would love a review on Apple iTunes. That kind of stuff is really, really helpful as well. What's the one simple thing to remember from our conversation? I think it is just about the importance of a good relationship between food and exercise. I don't know about you, but this was not something that was in line for me for a really long time. And so that would be my Christmas wish for you guys, and for all of us really, is to have a positive and loving relationship between food, between our exercise, between our bodies. And that kind of mindset will make all the difference in the world and the health journey. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.